thank you everyone for coming out tonight. It is I'm almost speechless to see all the people in the room, just from so many different places. The Fleece and Thank You story. I was at a conference last week, and I learned something really valuable that I wanted to share with you. So at the conference, one of the doctors that was talking, he talked about this two-question test that we should always ask ourselves. The two questions, the answers to those two questions should always line up. And if the answers don't line up, then you have a notice to kind of check yourself. It's about staying on the path. And the two questions are, what do I want to do, and who do I want to be? So if you can ask yourself every day, what do I want to do, and who do I want to be, you always will have that self-check to be on the right path. 4.5 years ago, I was living in Australia. I moved home, and I got this text message from my sister. It said, when you get some free time, you should make a blanket. And from that question, I started asking more questions. Started to find out that 30,000 kids a year in the state of Michigan enter a cold, scary hospital room. We're asking these kids to beat an illness, and they already feel defeated just by walking into the room. And I knew that they deserved better. And they deserve better every single time. And so 4.5 years ago, we started Fleece and Thank You with that mission to make sure that every single child in the state of Michigan has guaranteed color, comfort, and connection to that video message that's attached to every single blanket. This just started as a text message. It was just a text message. The people in the room tonight made it what it is today. And for that, I'm just very grateful. Thank you to everyone who's come out tonight and supported with $1, a minute, a voicemail, whatever it's been. I'm very appreciative. We've got two guest speakers for you tonight. The first one is an Army veteran who we met recently. He's become a really good friend of Fleece and Thank You. He's going to offer some words of wisdom, so I'd like you to welcome up Aaron Brown.
It's really different up here. All right, like Nick said, I'm Aaron Brown. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Can't hear a microphone. I feel like I sound weird. Anyway, my stint was in the Army for 5.5 years. My father, he was one of the guys that, he was an Air National Guard, and then my grandfather was World War II, so we kind of have like a thing paid forward, being in service. How I got started in here was a bag of chips, bag of barbecue chips, and saw it in the store. I'm like, hey, look at that, and there's a goofy smile. Let's see what happens here. So I was at home, I was eating it. My fiance goes, hey, have you read this bag? I was like, no, this is just a smile on it. So then she started telling me about Fleece and Thank You. And I was like, all right. So while she was talking, got on Fleece and Thank You, and I was like, well, this is pretty awesome. And I made a donation. So then, ever since then, I've just been donating as much as I possibly can. And then, right now I attend college at Blackburn University in Illinois. That's where I came from, Springfield, Illinois. So that's a 7-hour drive, ain't too bad. But my job in the Army was transportation, so I don't mind driving. And so right now I've kind of gotten to work. So I was trying to do it for this semester, but probably next semester is going to happen. We're going to do a fundraiser, and then we're going to order blankets, and then we're going to do a blanket event. And then I know Nick wants to expand it. I can go to either St. John's or Memorial or both, and the blankets that we make, take it to the pediatric patients and give them a little taste of Fleece and Thank You. So hopefully get it going. So, but yeah, that's good. I know you said 5 minutes, but I get kind of nervous when you look there. Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to have Aaron just speak briefly, because for me, there's two words that I think of when I think of Aaron, and it's follow through. You know, there was 100 million bags of Lay's potato chips that went out, and he picked them up, he ate them, he read the story, and he made a donation. we called him a couple days after, and now we become friends from it. And I just really appreciate you, Aaron, for following through. And really, we built this for the last 4 years on people that took an idea and followed through on it. So thank you for epitomizing that. I appreciate it. Next up to speak, I'd like to welcome the chair of our board of directors, Dr. David Spencer.
Aaron, how far did you drive to get here?
Just 400.
Pretty special. Found us on a bag of potato chips. Wasn't your smile, Nicholas. It was all about the chips. So the common question here is, how did you get connected with this organization? And it's all about networking. What I wanted to do is just acknowledge a couple of people and thank our board of directors, who are the people that serve to help and assist and guide and basically be a general nuisance to Nicholas and the rest of the team that are trying to get things done.
Yes.
But let me do that for just a minute. And if I can go around, and if I forget one of the board members, somebody's going to get me, I'm sure. Ed Knockford, Ed is over here. And you know, Ed works with young people to do writing and messaging and all that kind of good thing. Lisa Beach, engineer. Nick's in the back here. What do you do, James?
Marketing.
Marketing. Mr. Davis, Paul Davis, do basketball a little bit later, but you're pretty difficult to beat. Who have I missed here? I've got James, Lisa, Paul Davis, Denton Farley. Where are you, Denton? There, Denton in the back. Way in the back, one of our newest board members. Come on up here, Doctor. We have a physician, and that's Doctor. Yes. And Doctor, did you recently get married?
I did.
Yes, you did.
I did.
Dr. Krista Cahout.
What? Kahoot, like
Cahoot.
in cahoots. just
Okay.
not-
And you are the hospital.
Yeah, I'm the director of the pediatric hospitals division at Ascension St. John Hospital.
So she's our message of reality and good work on behalf of the organization and working with the hospitals. Thank you, Doctor. And you're yeah, because you make things happen for the doctor. What's your name again?
I'm Shay.
Yeah, and you do what there at the
I
hospital?
am the childhood specialist at Ascension St. John.
And that's how we got Dr.
And that's how you got Dr.
Yeah,
Kahoot.
we've got other things in mind for you later on.
Oh.
Okay, so. Didn't miss any board members. Okay, so why did I get involved in this organization as a board member? This guy. He's a beacon of light that shines very bright, but he's not alone. He may think that he's alone some of the time, but he's not alone because he has great people working with him, not only from the board, but also in the team aspect. Some of our team members back here. I'm going to start with Stevie. Where are you, Stevie? Steve's in the back. Steve runs the whole operation. Mary Beth runs our co-leader. Julie, and our development leader. This is a really, really cool place. I told Nicholas day before yesterday I wanted to speak. He's like, really? How long? I said, someone has to acknowledge and recognize you for what you do. I don't do that. And I say, well, sometimes it's important that you do get some recognition. I didn't think you could make the blanket thing happen over 2,000. I will admit that publicly. And at the end, I also thanked you and told you that you had accomplished something truly unique. But it's not just about you and the fine work that your people do. At the end of the day, Doctor, who's it about? It's about the kids. They get the blankets, and that's why all of you are here. How many of you were at the Make It Blanket Day event? Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I think we're going to see Chad, are we going to see a video tonight?
I hope so.
Okay. Nicholas, truly, from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of all of our volunteers, all of our board members, you do phenomenal work. I know it's hard being recognized, but you deserve the recognition. Thank you for your hard work. Okay?
Thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate it. So I definitely, anytime that I grab a microphone, I want to make sure that I give value to you and that you learn something or at least entertain, right? Because we've seen far too many speakers that don't entertain us. So I'm going to tell you guys some stories right now. And along the way, I'm going to be able to thank some people with these stories. So please and thank you. There's blanket makers and blanket recipients. And we're able to match them up with that video message. And so tonight, we wanted to recognize some very special people to us and match them up with also some very special people to us. Julie, would you mind going to the next slide? So the first person that we want to recognize is the Brown family, who couldn't be here tonight. Dan Brown, really good friend of mine. And
No pressure.
when I first moved back from Australia, I knew that I wanted to start this nonprofit. So who's the first person you call? You call an attorney who knows how to file for a nonprofit. So I called my friend Dan, and we filled out the paperwork for Fleece and Thank You in his kitchen. His mom made this amazing like beef and cheese thing on a pumpernickel bread, and I remember us filling out the paperwork, and we got to the board of directors section, and I said, well, you want, sure, okay. So we're both on the board of directors on this piece of paper. I'm like, well, we need a third. Okay, put my mom's name on there. I'm sure she'll say yes. And since then, Dan and his mom and dad, Dennis and Denise, have been so huge and so helpful to who we are and what we've become. And so the first person that I want to recognize that I think epitomizes the support that the Browns have given us is this amazing credit union. We were trying to pull off Make a Blanket Day, and we really needed a presenting sponsor. And this presenting sponsor, we just didn't know where it was going to come from. And through a connection, I talked to Cheryl Boudreau from Chief Financial Credit Union. And Cheryl asked questions, and I got a call 5 days later from Cheryl saying, we're in, we want to be the presenting sponsor. And that was the biggest vote of confidence for us. It was bigger than a sponsorship number. It told us that, hey, I think this blanket thing, like, I think it can actually happen. Let's go for it. Someone believes in us. So I'd like to call up the folks from Chief Financial Credit Union, if you wouldn't mind coming up and just being recognized. Huge thanks to Chief Financial Credit Union for playing a big part in Make a Blanket Day. Also, from the Brown family recognition here, I want to recognize a company that has been consistent. Because if there's one thing the Browns have been in my life, it's consistent. And I want to send a huge, sincere gratitude bomb to Mass Mutual Great Lakes. Mass Mutual Great Lakes, from the second that we met Manny and the team at Mass Mutual, anytime we needed an event or support or connection, they've been relentless in their support. And I want to call up Paul Davis to accept this on behalf of Mass Mutual Great Lakes. When you're pulling off a massive event, like a Guinness World Record event, you need some consistent support. We have done an event for 2 years in a row in the Rochester area. We used the momentum from this event to pull off Make a Blanket Day. There's this group of crazy guys and girls from Rochester, Michigan, and they do these workouts, and they're awesomely positive all the time. And I want everyone to recognize now, and I'd like them to come up, the folks from Applied Fitness Solutions for your contribution to Fleece. Thank you. And the last one for the Brown family recognition, would like to recognize the efforts of another company that was relentless in networking to make a Blanket Day 2019 happen. And here to accept the award for Health Quest is Mr. Kevin Beers. So Kevin, could you come up, please? So we started Fleece and Thank You October of 2015. I got a phone call in December of that year, and it was from my former soccer coach. His name's Bruce. And Bruce said, hey, we'd like to make a donation to you. And it was one of the first larger donations that we ever received. And it was, again, just a huge vote of confidence. And so I wanted to honor Bruce and Ann. And Bruce and Ann asked that I honor his late mother, Isolde Wilden. And so I'd just like to read a very brief couple details about Isolde. So she was vital in shaping who Bruce is, a beautiful woman inside and out, strong-willed and independent, and exceedingly generous. Born the 9th child of farmers and raised in war-torn Germany, she immigrated to America at the age of 20, where at a soccer game, she met the love of her life, Bob Wilden. They moved to Michigan, eventually had Bruce, and I'm forever grateful to Isolde Wilden for having Bruce and for Bruce meeting Ann and for the support that they've given me. We'd like to match up Isolde Wilden with one of our amazing donors. We were privileged to be on the Mitch Albom show. I got a phone call that day from a man who said, hey, I was watching TV and my parents had recently passed, and in their trust it said that I had to donate to a children's charity. And I didn't know who I was going to give to, and I saw you on TV. And I think that this is a fit. And so I'd like to call up Mr. Kevin Curran to accept this award on behalf of his mother and father, the Michael J. Curran Trust. Thank you, Kevin. And another familiar face to match you up with to represent the memory of Isolde Wilden is someone that you've already seen speak tonight. So I know from talking with you and Bruce Ann that she was just an absolute character and a great human. And I think that anyone who picks up a bag of potato chips and becomes part of a charity story is a great human as well. So thank you again to Aaron Brown. So the next recognition is named after a man who I would just call relentlessly supportive. Again, I will keep referencing Make a Blanket Day, but to pull that off, it honestly took a full-time effort from more people than we had team members for. And there's a man in this room who I don't know how he still had his Health Quest job, because I honestly felt like I called him 5 times a day. He answered every single time, and he called me another 5 times. And so for his relentless support, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind coming up and you can hand this certificate to who we matched this up with, but thank you to Kevin Beers. So we wanted this match to represent a company that hosted an epic blanket making event and has again been relentlessly supportive. So the first one that we're going to match this up with is this awesome company in Pontiac, Michigan, who sent me an email one day and said, we'd like to make 500 blankets. And it is still to this day our corporate record. And I would like to call up Whitney from United Shore to accept this award. Thank you very much. Another thing about Kevin is how spontaneously awesome he is. He will call me up at 2:30 in the middle of the day and say, hey, can you do a meeting at 3:30? I've got this company that wants to make blankets. I go every time because this guy just delivers gold. And that spontaneous awesomeness I want to capture through this second company that held this event. We had learned about them, I think just through a cold email. Their daughter had received a blanket in the hospital. Now they wanted to give blankets back to kids. And so we thought, okay, cool, this sounds great. It's going to be an awesome event. We can't wait. We made them a fundraising page, and blankets started coming in. And then they kept coming in. And then they kept coming in. And they kept coming in. And in the end, hundreds of blankets were made at Hard Rock Stoneworks. I'd like to thank Steve and Tiffany Amadeo and their lovely daughters for being here tonight, and come on up to accept this recognition.
Hey, how come the board members don't get a hot dog?
Yes. This next recognition, we're naming after a teacher that I met 2 months into building Fleece and Thank You. I spoke at, this is how strange things get, right? It is 6:30 in the morning inside a social hall at a church in Plymouth. I'm speaking to a group of people that are making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to then pass out to homeless friends. And I put a shameless plug in for Fleece and Thank You. A teacher runs up to me after I talk and she says, I don't really understand what this is, but my group's in for making blankets, here's my card. And I called her the next day and she starts talking about an all-school event. She wants the whole school to make blankets. We did it that year. We've done it 4 years since then. So we've named this recognition after Nancy Catula, who couldn't be here tonight, just for her ability to just jump in full throttle and support what we've had and to stay consistent in that support. And I'm not sure if I've seen her here yet tonight, but the first person I'd like to recognize for this is an awesome lady named Angela Wojtyniak. Did Angela end up making it? Yes, she did. Angela, if you wouldn't mind coming up real quick. So we got a similar email from Angela a couple years ago, and she is a teacher at Stevenson in Livonia, Michigan. And since then, we've held a couple events with the entire school. Our next one is a week from next Monday. You all are welcome to come. It's in Livonia. Hundreds and hundreds of blankets have come from Angela's efforts, and so we would be remiss if we didn't thank you very much for that. I also definitely want to recognize Angela leads NHS, and some of her NHS executive board is here tonight as well, so thank you guys for being here. I'm going to keep my composure through the next couple. We are definitely getting to the end. So when I was working in Australia, living there, I was working with a lot of different children's charities, and I met some really awesome families and some really awesome kids going through hospital treatments. One girl in particular, who is someone you might have read about on our website, is named Sophie Leonard. And I met Sophie working at Camp Quality, which is a camp for kids facing cancer treatments. And if there was one thing that I just remember about Sophie, always big, beaming smile. No matter what kind of day she had this big, beaming smile. And really, that was one of the first things that kicked me in the butt to say, dude, you've got to do something for this amazingly strong group of kids who can somehow find the strength through 4 years old having neuroblastoma to have that kind of smile on her face. And so her positivity, her energy is something that I'll always remember. I get to talk to them via email now. Sophie's now 5 and is cancer-free, which is awesome. So for her relentless positivity and her beaming smile, I wanted to match her up with our hospital recognition award. And I wanted to recognize, all the hospitals we work with are amazing, but I wanted to recognize one hospital in particular with this award, and that is Ascension St. John Children's Hospital. Whenever we need anything, Shay and Krista and the team at Ascension St. John, they're there for us. They've been so supportive of us through everything we do. I'd like to call Dr. Krista up to receive this award on behalf of Ascension St. John Children's Hospital. So for this next recognition, when we first started, the first call that I made to deliver blankets was obviously to my twin sister who worked at Mount Children's Hospital. And she said, "You've got to talk to Mary. She's the parent host on the floor." I didn't know what that meant, but she said she's the one who can take you around room to room and help you pass out the blankets. So I meet Mary, and I quickly learned that she has one of the best jobs ever. She gets to walk around room to room and just comfort the families, and she's really good at making milkshakes for patients. Does it all the time. Anytime we've needed something, Mary's been there for us. Thank you so much, Mary, for everything that you've done for us. If you wouldn't mind coming up, I'd like you to hand the certificate to whoever we're recognizing that group. So it would be fitting that we would match this recognition up with someone from a hospital who also shows that amazing positivity and that just willingness to help Cleveland Thank You with anything that we need when it comes to the hospital side of things. And for those of you who have worked in or been in a hospital, you know how tricky those places can be. There's lots of rules and for good reasons, but we'd like to honor Shay Rocco from Ascension St. John Children's Hospital. So this will bring me to our final recognition. So in 2016, we got a Facebook message from a lady named Mary Beth, and she said, "I'd like to come volunteer for you." And so we said, "Sure, come on out." We were at an old warehouse at the time. She came out, and we didn't really know if she had a good experience or not, but she came back the next day. And we asked her, "Well, how'd you hear about us?" She said, "Oh, I was at the library, and some lady just told me about you, and so I thought I'd come check it out." I said, "Oh, that's so cool." And since then, we've always talked about, what would it be like if you found that lady again? Like, what if she just came to the warehouse one day? We really think that it was an angel that just talked to her and brought her to us. But as she shared more with us, she shared with us a lot about one of her sons named Ben. And her late son, Ben Bloom, was an amazing human, always positive and always really caring about the people that he was talking to. And Mary Beth has told us time and time again that when you had a conversation with Ben, you just knew that he really cared about who you were as a person. And he was always, always positive. And so, take you to a second story. One of our first events ever at Oakland University, this awesome woman walks into the room, and she's got a smile on her face, and she says, "I'm just here to help." And she makes blankets at that event, and then she continues to email and call and ask how she can help. She comes to other events. She then starts doing things at home, at her house. And as we got to know her better, we learned about her journey battling brain cancer and beating brain cancer and just living a life as a survivor. And so one day we had her come into the warehouse, and I was so excited for everyone to meet her because I had told everyone so many stories about this lady. So this time I'd like to bring up Ben's mother, Mary Beth, to present the certificate to who we're going to honor here. If you can come up, Mary Beth. So when Amy Church walked into the warehouse that day, I was excited for everyone to meet her. And when she first walked in, Mary Beth looked really pensive. And after a couple minutes, we realized that the lady who had told Mary Beth about Fleece and Thank You at the library was Amy Church. Amy, would you come up here, please? Amy Church epitomizes everything that Ben Bloom stood for. Relentlessly positive, always willing to help, and expecting good things to happen. You do so much for us, Amy, and we're just so grateful for your support. And to Mary Beth, I think one of the most important things that you can know is that